guys, welcome to our review of Invincible, the second half of the season, episodes 5 through 7. I'm doing this now because episode 8, I will be in Scotland, but I want to put something up for now, and maybe if I come back, we can do that finale, and we can do the future of Invincible. I've got all 3 compendiums. I've purchased them, so I've been going through them. I already owned 1 and 2, and I really love this series. So, have they been cooking with these next episodes? Let's go through them, and let's just jump right in. What did you boys think of the most recent 3 episodes, 5 through 7?
I was not very impressed with 5 and 6. For me, 6 was the Batman versus Superman plot.
Batman versus Superman,
yeah. He's looking out, and he sees all the damage, and he's like, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew what was going to happen throughout. It's like, look, he just... I was honestly kind of bored. It just felt kind of average for me for 6. But obviously 7 really ramped up for me.
Yeah. That's
kind of what I wanted. But these other side stories with the team and like the relationship of Rex and all this stuff, it's kind of, I don't really care about it, especially when I'm looking for 7. That one really boosted up for me. But
I'm super glad I watched 5, 6, and 7 all at the same time because 5, I did think it was great, and 6 was a little better.
Thank you. I agree.
But 7 was, of course, incredible. But I think you had mentioned it, or maybe I've been reading that this is a season that they kind of stretched into 2 seasons, and 5 and 6, you could feel the stretch, and it's not good.
Yeah, it definitely took a dip in quality, I think, right there. I had praised the hell out of it, right, compared to you guys. Well, I think y'all also enjoyed it, episodes 1 through 4, and then I was like, all right, how's this going? I watched episode 5, I'm like, a little bit a little bit of drop off there. That's not to say that we're talking Invincible scale, right? Because this is a damn good series, damn good animation, good characters, good writing. But on the Invincible scale, episode 5 and 6 is a little weak. Episode 5 was called "This Was Supposed to Be Easy." And if y'all will remember, this is kind of basically
this is like the crime
organization.
The crime syndicate, whatever. He's trying to take over, and he wants the multi-pole out, and he's giving him a deadline, and he starts messing with his family. And then at the end, we get that fight with the old man turned into a fucking dragon. It's like, okay, fine. But it's like the villain of the week kind of thing.
Yeah.
If I would have watched it, I was like, honestly, I would have given it a lower score, but since I watched these all, I was like, it was okay.
I think this is supposed to set up a significant part in the comics where they create their own agency. It's like Mark is now on his own with Eve. They create this protection agency. So there's a little bit of that. They saw fit to bring back season 1's characters, the guy that cleaned up his neighborhood and everything. And once again, setting up using Mark again. It was some in-between stuff. I think that it kind of fails to find some weight behind some of the subplots in episode 5. So episode 5 was a little weaker for me. Going on to episode 6, this is super bleak. I was very excited about what's his name,
Powerplex.
Yeah, and
Aaron Paul.
It's a great character in the comics because you really confront the destruction that Mark is. Just like you say, Batman v Superman.
That's what it was.
A lot of people would complain, in Man of Steel when Superman was creating all this destruction.
It wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault, right? He was trying really hard. Now this is an emotion-filled episode, and I guess I just didn't feel it as much as I felt it in the comics. So from my perspective as a comic reader, I think, some of these were done a little bit better because it feels like you might have a little more time to dedicate it. I think that there's a feeling of kind of rushing through, especially when we get to the Invincible War. I want multiple episodes of that unfolding, that destruction across the globe. I think we could have gotten an additional episode. Now, it will continue. There's more, Invincible War coming, but for what happened there, it felt a little rushed.
Yeah, I mean, it's massively, massively rushed. I kind of agree that we're doing the whole Batman v Superman thing. The problem I've got with it, and the problem that I have with this season, is sometimes the characters are just... there's no nuance to them, and they're just like, no, this is it. We're idealists. It's all everything's black and white, and it's like, okay, well, we've done it earlier with how whiny Mark was in the beginning, and not understanding like how things work, and now we've got another character on the other end who's he's just a ridiculous whiny child person, and it's like, okay, every now and then having one of these characters
yourself.
It's like, okay, you can't kill, but you're endangering the life of all these people, and your point
dealing with heavy themes here.
Yeah, but like it's been told better before, and this one was like you said, rushed. And you already know what's gonna happen from a mile away. It's like his vengeance is going to take the best of it.
And
it's going to take his family.
Baby killing.
Here's a baby. He's like, oh, the baby's going to die. Here's his wife.
Dead. He's like,
the wife is going to die. It's like, yeah.
Not his wife, but his wife originally died, and now his relative and family is fucking dead at his hands, and yet he still can't comprehend that it is now his fault. He still blames Mark for everything.
Mark, but yes.
Yeah. It's and then there was a really great panel in the comic with Powerplex, where he's holding him and all this electricity is going everywhere, and I was like, I kind of thought that was done a little bit better in the comics. Now that's not to say it isn't done well, because I do think that there are some powerful scenes here. Especially if you haven't read the comic, I think I ruined myself kind of a little bit by the comic, but a lot of us are the comic fans. I do like how Mark is having to face the weight of his actions in this world, and Mark has developed so much from that whiny version of Mark that we hated before. He understands this kind of nuances, like it's not my fault, but it kind of is my fault, and so he has a lot of guilt, a lot of conscience shift, and
he even makes mention. I think he's like, Cecil tried to keep me from this. He's like, well, there's probably a reason why.
Yes, and I do think that this is a stronger episode than episode 5, so I liked it. So here where we're going up, right? So it was over here at episode 4, we took a dip, but now we're going back on an upward rise. My only complaint is by the time we get to episode 7, I'm like, holy shit, we're here. We're doing it. This is and in the comics, the way they the way they present themselves, and they're all floating, and you're like, holy fuck, there's like all these marks, like we are fucked. Like this is on the level of like Viltrumite War kind of stuff, and it didn't really seem like it in the show. I think it was because it was going too fast. We couldn't see all the destruction in London and Chicago and Sydney and all these. It was very brief in New York and all these things. And if they had made that one episode, 2 episodes, like this hopelessness, then I think it would have worked a little bit better.
I had to stop at the episode and rewind several times because there's scenes missing from this episode.
That's what I felt
and it's like Mark's getting beat up by people that don't know that he's the real Mark, and they think he's an evil Mark.
That's exactly
and
the one I was thinking.
Then the next scene that you see them, they're friends again, and then the other guy's knocked out. And I get that they've got a lot of stuff to do.
Yes,
this is stuff
flesh
that we want to see. I want to see. It's a trope, right? It's like, how do I know you're the real Mark?
Yeah.
And it's like that. Those are scenes that are important, and you wasted my time with episode 5. I like 6 better than you did. I think you were more on line about 6, but you wasted my fucking time with 5. There's no point. You could have just said we're starting a business, and then that's all that came from 5. Stretch 7 out because there's so much good stuff here. This is the juice that we've been squeezing for. Like, this is all of the development. And I
agree, because that's that exact moment, too. I was like, I was looking over. I was like, wait. I rewind. I was like, no. What the fuck?
How do we resolve the scene?
And what happens? Like, you're friends.
These new characters are getting introduced. The Guardians of the Globe, Brit, who is kind of like Captain America, is this old guy. And all of a sudden, we're just supposed to, identify with him. No, I don't think we've ever seen him. Though. Like maybe once, but
I think all we needed was just 2 bank robbers to stop Mark, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone can stop Mark.
Yeah, and so the earlier episodes, while I do like the fucking dragon loot,
that was cool.
And it shows that there are villains and heroes out there that are at the level of Viltrumite or outside this power dynamic. Where does he get his power from? They set up the future with him with his bodyguard, and he may or may not be returning. And this is interesting stuff. But on the whole, I agree that it was kind of a downward all the way up to the Viltrumite War. And the Viltrumite War, just by its very nature, 8 18 different multi-versus threats of Mark and all these unique
at least
variations of him. Some fucking hated and killed Eve. Some killed his mom. Some joined his dad. Some killed his dad. Some lead the entire Viltrumite empire. That's really, really cool. And at first you might be disappointed with, that guy died really quick. You know, that version of Mark died really quick. But that's kind of how it happens in the comics too, that they're not quite as powerful. They do drop a line saying, they're not as powerful as our Mark. And I was like, okay, so that kind of helps a little bit. But I think for people who have never seen the Invincible War arc, this episode is damn good. Playing it out in my head on what the show is going to do, and it kind of goes real quick. So just make it 2 episodes and I would have. However, I still think it is of very, very, very high quality. So why don't we, it's kind of pointless to give second half of the season a review because we haven't reviewed episode 8 yet. I'll be in Scotland. But let's go ahead and give individual ratings to the episode. I'll go ahead and start it off. I think 5 was 5 at best. I get the subplots. I get setting up, setting off on his new path and then bringing some of the characters from season 1 on the street level stuff. But I think it was average, at least on Invincible's level, 5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it was just a villain of the week. I did like the little dragon and the supernatural stuff at the end. That was pretty cool. So I'm going to go with the 5.
Yeah, 5 for a TV show. Honestly, I think it may be a little below average for Invincible, and only in the terms of Invincible. Like, I would say, we look at all of the episodes, I think it's probably below average for it, but still, it's still good television.
I'm tough love here, and I know people watching this are just lovers of Invincibles, right? People that are watching us, but I got to give some tough love here. Episode 6, where we get Powerplex, I was a big fan of this. I know... And I like the way it was done in the comics. And here, it was a little too on the nose, a little too... And I get it. That's kind of, very, very similar to the original. But I just didn't feel a lot of the emotions that I was hoping to feel. And then they also do a lot of setup for Rex. Rex is one of my favorite fucking characters. And I know what was coming because I had read the comics. And it's too fucking obvious. It's too in your face. It's too forced. It feels like, I'm on the police force. I'm retiring. This is my last day on the job.
2 days. Someone's playing a saxophone, and you're like, where the fuck is it coming from?
Doesn't really, suffer from this. In previous ones, you got these heroes, and you're in this epic, bah! You're fucking dead. You know what I mean? And here it's too telegraphed because I know it's like fan service almost. But when you go too much like that, it kind of cheapens it a little bit.
Yeah, but they always come back.
You get the payoff in episode 7 for that. And it fits his character perfectly, and the sacrifice is so fucking amazing. But in episode 6 was the kind of setup for that. And so I'm gonna go 6. So it's matching so far. I'm going to go slightly above average here. I've seen that story told where you have this good guy who kind of turns into a villain or just average hero, and then his powers are amplified, and he tries to take it to Mark, and he makes Mark realize, the consequences of his actions, but he's and all that. So 6 out of 10 for me.
For me, I don't want to give it a 4, but it's like a low-ass 5. It's an average one. I've seen it. We've seen it done before. Vengeance. It's just like he's blinded by rage, and he's like, all he sees is red. He just wants to fucking kill Mark because of what he did, but he doesn't understand what happened. And at the end, I did feel bad, but that woman spit in Mark's face. I was like, hey, what are you doing? He was going to save you, but whatever.
Yeah, it makes you mad.
Yeah, but it's an old tale, and I just didn't really feel any emotion, unfortunately, with this one.
It's the problem.
Sorry to be down a little bit.
It's a problem with tropes. Is like tropes can be great, especially when you do them at a really high level. And honestly, Invincible does them very well a lot of time. I just don't think they handled this one super well.
It felt rushed too.
Some of it may have been the acting. Some of it was honestly, it could, I don't know. Maybe
all I can say is I'm sorry for our opinion on this. We're being critics here, and I'm giving it some tough love. I do like, Monster Girl has been cured by a robot. And that's cool. So we get other stuff here and there. Mark and Oliver and all the Eve setup. It acknowledges a lot of the relationships and continues them. So I think that's very, very solid. Now, episode 7. This is great. Fucking, if you're fresh, you're good. You're breaking your jaw up off the floor. You're like, oh, this is fucking great. And I do think this is great. I want to give it a 9 out of 10 because of the Viltrumite War, how much I enjoyed it, and how fucking shocking it is. The sacrifice of Rex is so well done. It is the character that we know him to be. He turns from this fucking jerk that I fucking hated at the beginning, and now he's my jerk, and now he's fucking awesome, and I don't want to lose him, and we lost him, but if we're gonna lose him, then it has to be in a moment of badass. He's like, you got nothing else to explode. He's like, oh yeah, my whole fucking skeleton. Baja!
We could bring him back.
And no. No, we can't. I do hope
there's at least 18 multiversal Rexes.
Oh, I forgot about
I hope they don't do that.
They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna do that. Now they might do a spin-off because remember how Eve had one episode to herself as a pre-season episode. Maybe they'll do Rex's backstory like they did in the comic, because in the comic they had a spin-off of Eve, they had a spin-off of Rex for a very short amount of time. So I could see one episode of Rex, and I would really enjoy that because his sacrifice was awesome, as well depicted. A little bit better depicted in the comics, but I need to stop saying that because this is its own thing. But I still want to acknowledge it because all the original people are involved in this, and they say, yeah, this is almost like a second draft, a revision. Well, if you want to revise it, you want to make it better, and in many aspects it's better, and in other aspects doesn't quite have that massive impact. But we get Angstrom Levy coming back. Executing his plan, absolute devastation across the world. But I do like it, they don't do the stupid trope where it's like, everybody kill Mark, and it's like, no, they realize even in the news, and you can tell that the news is slanted for them, and it sucks because the news lately, you could tell the news is slanted, and this it says Invincible Mark fights against invaders instead of Invincible attacks the world, you know what I mean? So as he takes care of this, Angstrom Levy's plan begins to fall apart because these are marks. Not only are they marks, you can't really control them, but they're evil marks because in most universes, Mark's evil. The good Mark is kind of a fucking outlier, and especially if Eve dies, then your marks are jacked up. And so, really, really cool. Loved it. I like the fact that they were doing days of the Invincible War and this feeling of dread. But I do think we needed a second episode to really press those feelings of just hopelessness in the entire Earth. And it's like... And then I did get mad a little bit at Mark. He does this in the comic where he's like, I got to defend Eve and this and that. And it's like, bro, you need to be out there. Like, you're one fucking piece. You're the big piece here. And you're shirking every second you're spending out there. There's heroes out there, and they show scenes of the heroes, like the werewolf guy and the night dude in Britain, I think. And motherfuckers are dead because of Mark. Like, so this is great stuff. This is huge stuff. Even Oliver comes out to do that. And again, I'm spoiled by the comic because one of the fucking I think it's the mustache Viltrumite Mark it looks at Oliver and he sees that fucking symbol and he goes, you need to earn that symbol. You know what I mean? And there's this like depth of background, and that wasn't in the that was in the comic. The line was in the comic, but it wasn't in the.
Don't have time here.
Series.
They're sprinting through it.
They're kind of sprinted through it, but yeah. I really, really enjoyed it. So I'm between an 8 and a 9. If my critic brain and my tough love would give it an 8, but my fans, since now everybody gets to enjoy it, I'll end on a 9. But in the back of my head, I'm like, man, we should have had 2 here.
I'm at an 8. Because I did want more, and it kind of feels like it was a super rush, especially towards the end. Everything kind of got resolved real quick.
And then they even managed to put Conquest in the end. Like, that's too much.
Yeah,
here.
there was a lot. I was like, okay, well, now I'm mad because the other 2 episodes should have been shorter, and this one should have been longer because I wanted to see more of the destruction, more of the fucking mayhem that was going on. And he was spending more time with Eve. That was going on. I
feel like 8 episodes ain't cutting it. It needs to be 10.
It needs to be something. But then, like, it kind of he did get his plan. It's like, well, everyone's going to think of you when they see all this destruction. But I just felt like that got, that was like
I like the fact that the hand wave. Not everybody is stupid enough to be like, oh, everybody hates Mark now because he's attacking people. It's more about the fact that, just putting doubt in people.
Yeah, it's like, is he going to turn on us like his dad did? And like, it just emphasizes on that as well. And what was it? Langston? Is that what his name?
Angstrom Levi.
Yeah, and then I guess he's going to be stuck with those Cenobites now.
Yeah, little teaser at what the heck's coming over there. He manages to escape. Oliver wants fucking Mark to kill.
I was on Oliver's side.
Too. You need to fucking kill now, Mark, and he doesn't.
It's like, if you would have really made sure he was dead, none of this would have happened.
All of these heroes wouldn't. Yeah, exactly.
So,
but he did think, to be fair, the guy was dead. And the comic was like, all right, we're going to write it where he's done.
He'll break his hands, too. His hands and arms.
He crawls in and goes through that. That was like probably the most brutal animation. I'm going to go 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
All right.
I really liked it. I'm between an 8 and a 9. I wanted to give this one a 10 out of 10 because things were happening, but like I'm with you guys. It's just like it's not my fault that they decided to stretch out this season and break it up into 2 seasons and stretch out side plots that in a way that's not super satisfying. And then when we finally get to the part that we've all been waiting for, that I want everyone to like love, we sped through it. Yeah. And it's just, I think it's almost unacceptable. I say that. I still loved it. It was still absolutely awesome, and you should totally watch it. But I mean, when we're talking about shows that are really good, ultimately what we're doing is trying to find, it's hard because Invincible is a TV show that is capable and has often given us 10 out of 10s. Yeah, and so like we know what they're capable of, and this kind of feels like Amazon fucked it up. Yeah. And I hate that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted like a 5 and 6 combined in a 1 and have day 1, day 2 for the 6 and then 7.
Large-scale destruction, but we wanted more, and if people knew what they were missing out on. I go to IGN, they scored it a 7, and they said a messy episode that introduces 18, and they are getting hammered in the comments.
It's a 9.8 on IMDb.
It's 9.9 at this time, but then probably 9.8 by now. IGN, and they are just hammering on IGN. Listen, I probably wouldn't go that low. Unless you're talking exclusively on an Invincible scale, that kind of thing. But I understand, because if you've read the comics, you understand that I feel like we could have got more. Now, who knows? We're going to get one more episode. So maybe they extend a little bit of some of the stuff because it's wrapped up. They're already in this alternate dimension. So how do you stop the ultimate marks, right? I think there's 8 or 9. I think it was 8 ultimate marks by the end that are, super strong and that have survived. And Angstrom basically banishes them to that fucking, world that is completely devoid of food and people, and it's just destruction. So that, I think, was what we're going to see more of. But the actual destruction in the city and the fights between the heroes. And what kind of sucks is, another thing the show can't do that the comics did is there was, a lot of cameos. So there was Spawn, who fought one of these Marks. There was another guy killed Mark with a yo-yo. I forget what hero that name was. Put it in the comments.
You like a little baby in a tuxedo? No fair.
No, the the sexist mummy.
Oh yeah,
that was dumb.
It was out of nowhere.
It was so out of nowhere.
Because it was a callback. It was a callback.
I know, but
it wasn't a good call.
But I was
it
like,
made you chuckle, and
did.
I wanted to chuckle, but I didn't chuckle. I was just kind of annoyed with it.
Yeah, I was like, I remember this guy. This guy's a fool. But yeah,
what do y'all think?
It should have been fucking 6 and 7. They should have combined. That's why I'm giving it an 8, because it just needed more of an impact.
And I'm happy you did it, Joe. Yeah. I have y'all here to be a little rougher on him, because I am very, very high on Invincible, and I want everybody to enjoy it. But for these particular storylines, I think Powerplex and the Invincible War, I do recommend that you pick up. Those should be in Compendium 2. And so to see how it was done, and then give your opinion. All right, guys, that's it for us. I will be in Scotland. I need a break. Thank you so much. It's going to be a fun vacation. Maybe I can get some videos or vlogs if y'all are interested. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you guys on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys.